Bruins fans are starting to get divided. It's all about this new list. Well, more specifically, it's all about Charlie McAvoy. But before I show it to you, let me ask you this question straight up, Bruins fans. Is Charlie McAvoy a top 10 defenseman in the NHL right now? I'll give you a second. NHL Network does not think he's top 10, no matter what you or I think. Here's their list. Top 20 defensemen in the NHL right now. And there is Charlie McAvoy just outside the top 10 at number 11. A little quick peek at the top 10 if you want to see that. No surprise. Cale Makar, number 1. Quinn Hughes. Zach Werenski, huge jump. A guy I love, but whoa. Number 3 in the NHL. That is a terrific jump. On one great year. Like he should have gotten Hart Trophy votes last year. He should have. So I understand that. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. Charlie McAvoy at number 11 is a very interesting one. He's right behind Evan Bouchard. He's ahead of guys you see like Adam Fox, who's been compared to in his career. And Fox has the elusive Norris Trophy that Charlie McAvoy doesn't have and quite frankly hasn't been close to in the last couple of years. Because honestly, my first thought in seeing this list and the whole top 20, my first thought seeing this list was that McAvoy might be getting too much love. I think the gut reactions from this list are what's really dividing Bruins fans. Some are drinking the Kool-Aid and still think he should be in the top 10. But still others that watch this team every night thinking, is he even in the top 20? Should he be closer to 20 than he is to 11? I think it's fair to call the last 2 seasons of Charlie McAvoy disappointing. Not terrible, not catastrophic, not get his ass off my team and fire him into the sun kind of bad, but disappointing. I think that's fair to say about him at this point in his career, a career that still has plenty of life left to it. We'll get to that more later on. I'm not saying this is the end of Charlie McAvoy, but the last 2 seasons, of course, he missed the last 30 games this past year, but the last 2 seasons have not been there, have not been the Charlie McAvoy that we've expected, not the Charlie McAvoy we thought we'd have going into his prime, and certainly not the one that is about to rely on him to be one of the major leaders, if not the major leader on the team. He's not the physical, don't go in the corners with him kind of Tasmanian devil defenseman he once was. And while he's definitely still sound defensively, he absolutely is. He doesn't add much of anything to this team offensively right now. And I think that's where it gets really interesting with this list. And when you look towards his future, multiple shoulder injuries at this point, I don't know if that's going to help him down the line to improve his physicality or his offensive play, which I think those 2 things being improved is what makes Charlie McAvoy a top 10 defenseman in the NHL. But if he doesn't have that, he's not going to get back in there. And that's what worries me. But when you look at this list, and let's look at the top 10 and not have Charlie McAvoy on it. The top 10 guys on this list, like outside of Jacob Slavin, these guys all have tremendous offensive upside, if not a great offensive track record. In the case of Roman Josi, who's coming off a down year, obviously with an injury himself that he played through. Like these guys are legit, elite, 2-way defensemen outside of Slavin. And even the rest of the 10 through 20, I think there's a lot of that in there as well. You know, when you look at a guy like Adam Fox or Mikhail Sergachev or certainly Lane Hudson down at the bottom there at 19. And who you don't see at number 10 because of the graphics here is Evan Bouchard at number 10. Now that's where it gets interesting because nobody is going to say that Evan Bouchard's a better defensive player as a defenseman than Charlie McAvoy. But yet he sits here in the top 10 because, I don't know, he's over a point a game in the playoffs. Outside of Makar and Hughes, he might be right there. as the next best offensive defenseman in the entire league. But McAvoy doesn't have that anymore. And he was not going to be quite what Evan Bouchard is offensively, but he was a bright young offensive star, and he just really didn't ever get back to that. That's what puts Bouchard ahead of McAvoy. And when you look behind, again, you see the Fox, the Sergachevs, the Sandersons, the Hudsons, guys who, if not, are already really good offensive defensemen, have a ton of potential. But looking through that, Sergachev's coming off a 60-point season. Adam Fox has had 3 70-point seasons. Charlie McAvoy's never had a 60-point season in his career. Even when things were going well, even when he was finishing top 5 in the Norris Trophy voting, his career high in points at 56. That's not going to get you on any top 10 defenseman list, no matter how sound you are on the defensive end. In 2025 in the NHL, you're not going to be in the top 10 or the top 5 if you can't put up 60 points. That's just how it is. You've got to be an incredible shutdown guy like Jacob Slavin is. So offensively, he's not Adam Fox. He's not Lane Hudson, let alone Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes. And defensively, well, he's still really solid. I wouldn't put his shutdown abilities up there with Jacob Slavin, Rasmus Dahlin even. I think after the last 2 seasons, it's a little flattering to Charlie McAvoy to have him just outside the top 10 defensemen in the league, to have him at number 11, especially if we're looking at it purely off stats, which is kind of what we do. It's how we do things here. Not everybody gets to watch every player every night. Okay? That said, Charlie McAvoy's still in his prime. Okay? And there's a double-edged sword to this. With a major assumption that he's back fully healthy and that these somewhat recurring shoulder injuries don't hinder his offensive play for the rest of his career. Now let me reframe the question. Who would you start your team around if you had to start it around a defenseman? It's not going to be Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes in this argument, because of course those are the guys you would. But if you were to start a team right now in 2025 and you needed a defenseman to start that's outside the top 5, are you picking Charlie McAvoy or are you picking Evan Bouchard? Are you picking Charlie McAvoy or are you picking Devin Taves? Are you picking Charlie McAvoy or are you picking Gustav Forsling? Like, sure, McAvoy's taken a hit offensively, but he also doesn't have the benefit of quarterbacking a power play that has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on it, the way Evan Bouchard does. He's not playing in a pairing with the best defenseman on the planet Earth, like Devon Taves does. He doesn't play behind the most aggressive forward group in the league, next to an all-star defenseman and in front of a Hall of Fame goalie, like Gustav Forsling does. Instead, he plays behind a bottom 5 forward group in the NHL. He plays next to an offense-first, defense-optional partner in Mason Lohrei. And he plays in front of a prima donna goalie who led the league in goals last year. That's Charlie McAvoy's context. That's what we see out of him. Doesn't have a lot of the benefits that a lot of these other guys have. Charlie McAvoy's just sitting there on a team that was basically bottom 5 in the NHL last year. Context is key for McAvoy, and it's going to continue to be key for McAvoy as the Bruins continue to suck. But this does bring me to my ultimate disappointment with McAvoy and why I think Bruins fans are slightly disappointed. Everyone watched this in February, and McAvoy was a monster at 4 Nations. It was brief. It was basically 2 games, okay? But in that brief moment, we saw the old Chuck McAvoy in there. He was throwing that body around with reckless abandon, making a huge physical impact on the game. Just ask Connor McDavid. Bruins fans watched that and they said, where has this been? I know I was saying it after that first Canada game. Where has this been? Lord willing, we'll see it again for Team USA in Milan in February. He needs to be playing alongside someone more sure-handed. He needs to be playing alongside Hampus Lindholm when he's playing for the Bruins. If we can help it, no more Mason Lohrei, no more Nikita Zadorov next to him. Charlie McAvoy can be a top 10 defenseman in this league again. But part of it absolutely has to do with the forward group ahead of him, the partner next to him, and the goaltender behind him. And right now, those things are not good for the Bruins. Based off last year, and again, I predict a bounce back year. I've said it on the show many times, but right now, as it stands, we don't know if he's playing in front of an all-star goalie. Based off last year, he's not. And we don't know who his defense partner is going to be. Hampus Lindholm is the most short-handed, but he's coming off a huge injury as well. And we don't know the strides that Mason Lohrei has made in the summer. We do know he's not going to be playing in front or behind, We do know he's not going to be playing behind a good forward group. It's going to be one of the worst forward groups in the league. It was last year. It is again. And when you look at when Charlie McAvoy had those great seasons in 2020, 21, 21, 22, when he was finishing top 5 in the Norris Trophy voting, top 10, he was playing behind some really good forwards. And I know that shouldn't take much into account when you're talking about a defenseman award, but when we're talking about the way that Charlie McAvoy plays, right now, he needs to be the most responsible one on the team. And for Charlie McAvoy, that means not laying out big hits. That means not being a shot-first defenseman. That's what's keeping him outside the top 10. For years, he had some physical D partners, guys like Zdeno Chara, and he had a forward group that was physical enough to handle their own battles and play good team defense. He doesn't have that anymore. You're hoping that someone else or a couple other guys will take up the kind of mantle of, oh, it needs to be a big hit. It needs to be a fight. You're hoping that's what Nikita Zadorov and Taylor Janot for you, so that Charlie McAvoy can be physical without having to worry about fighting or standing up for his teammates at every turn. Let him be him. And he could be a top 10 defenseman in this league again. I really do believe that. But I want to know what you guys believe. Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, and we are on the path towards 4,000 subscribers. We are hot on the trail thanks to a lot of Bruins talk. So if you're into the Bruins or things about Boston sports, that's all we do. Every weekday, live at high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. So check out the other videos on YouTube talking about the Bruins, the Red Sox, everything else going on in the world of Boston sports. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week.